Earlier, Kutsia was fatally injured while trying to protect some girls from an armed robber. She wakes up to find herself reincarnated in a fantasy world as Cain, who belongs to a noble family, who has passed. He keeps his memories from his life, so his family considers him a genius. At the age of 5 he undergoes a forced baptism. The gods grant him all their blessings, and max out all his stats. When his family sees this they warn him to keep their blessings a secret, but he sets his sights on becoming an adventurer. A lot of experimentation is going on as Cain makes his way through the Order of the Knights headquarters. When he is met by the vice captain, they greet each other, and the guy advises him to leave some wild materials at Magna's headquarters, informs that he gave arrangement, so he takes it to one of the storage rooms to unload the goods. But Cain politely tells him that the room isn't big enough, which kills his shots as his face slowly turns to horror. Whether the monsters are of the same caliber or not, he asked. The red dragon that Cain shows up in his palace assures him that there is nothing on this level, but accidentally drops the bombshell that the earth dragon is among the monsters, which shocks the vice captain as a group of adventurers fight back. Defeat. Cain's neglect of such details is that he now realizes that he is too big because the diameter allows him to drop them into the yard so that the knight can process them later. He activates his item box that releases the contents. The higher level monsters begin to gather, causing Dion to shout, who is surprised despite his warning, as he bluntly asks Cain after confirming that he defeated all the monsters single-handedly, is he a hero or a disciple of the gods? The young man reacts a bit to the next question. Cain looks down on himself by saying that he is only the son of a Garm, and decides not to be interested in anything else. The young noble appreciates that the vice captain gives him some time to evaluate him, says he can go, there are a lot of them, but he has no problem with it. As he has some work to do, he tries to leave quickly, but the vice captain stops him and asks him to help him with the upcoming knight's training. She also wants young noble meet their captain. The boss likes strong men, so he wants to show what he can do, and later reluctantly agrees to a gathering of the rest of the knights, introducing him to Cain, who killed 30 orcs, and presents the princess as a young baron, who rescues her. The captain isn't there yet, but Dom assures him that number 1 will be with him soon. They can hasten the captain's appearance by starting fake battles. In Cain's mind they think they'll be too scary. Vice captain his subordinates comment on the fake battles, but they are a little worried because Cain, a very young DM, allows someone who expresses concern to be the first to face a noble. The knight even takes pity on Cain and decides to give him the first move. Cain moves so fast that the knight doesn't register the move until it's too late. He goes into shock as he is aggressively disarmed. Seeing the difference in their strength, Cain surrenders. He may have overdone it, thanks them, as he tries to leave, says, but Dom stops him again. The vice captain is shocked by what he's witnessing, so he stops him from leading Cain, given his skill level. As they attack him, the captain shouts from the top of a nearby building to hold off their attack. He descends to find out why the whole group of knights are pointing their swords at the guy. He scolds them for their lack of pride and the captain turns away. He hugs Cain and asks if he's okay and says he's not worried about the scary people around him, because he's a little taken aback by the hug. But the first thing she notices is that he's an elf, not stopping this injustice. The vice captain calmly explains that he is a famous hero who defeated the orcs and saved the princess. He sensed it. He immediately pulled out his sword excitedly, because if he challenged him to a duel, he would be wise to introduce himself first. He would not agree to be talked to by the sword. The rest of the knights already know the passion of the captain's strong fighting opponents, quietly justifying themselves as they go, doubting Cain will be able to continue after gaining the title of swordsman. Cain hears them and the captain starts to get a little scared. They give the signal to start, but the hero points out that he has a wooden sword in his hand. He assures her that his sword is dull. They start to exchange and he already enjoys the fight, knows, as they collide around the training ground at speeds that would send knights into a tailspin. They are surprised to see Cain following the captain, and when he quickly dodges his attack and wins the duel. He seems shocked at first, but quickly turns to affection as he processes the gap in his powers, at which point he announces that he will wait until the future to marry her, and all the knights burst into tears at his announcement. Cain pushes him away because he doesn't know anything about her, so he officially introduces himself as Tijuana, who also has a title, an honorary viscount. She is the daughter of Duke Libert, who rules the northern forest, and although she is over 300 years old, she is not yet a year old, so Cain can expect to reach her static age. Cain runs for cover behind the dam. Duke's daughter can't handle marriage on her own. Tijuana tells her housemates that she won't come back until she finds a husband, so they're happy to hear the news. Cain tells her that it's not easy on her part because there are people he should consult before doing anything. He looks like he wants to kill him for support, but the guy pretends to be asleep. Tijuana agrees and orders his vice president to bring Cain. When they visited the king, the young man is now anxious to lead him. He is the last person who should hear about it. He already knows that he is in trouble, and after hearing about the urgent matter, he looks down in great fear until he makes eye contact with the king, who spent time, and Tijuana immediately leaves and informs the monarch his intentions for Mary Cain. This announcement leaves both his father and the king speechless, who want to know how he could be in such great danger. Mentions that she is engaged to, but Cain is afraid to tell the captain because it is not known, but they reveal that Tijuana originally came from the region of Liber, an elven nation. Because of their beauty they were kidnapped. Those who wanted to leave or become slaves were always dragged into wars. The escort country, their first king, Yoi, made sure that there was no discrimination based on race, so the elves were happy that their land was absorbed into the S4 kingdom, and they were under their protection. But the Libert territory felt like manages, and not much different from other independent nations. In other words, Tijuana is actually a princess, and Cain has received a marriage proposal from her, which is a difficult situation. So the king informs Tijuana that Cain is already betrothed to his own daughter, as well as Duke Eric's daughter, Tijuana. But revelation attracts him even more, because it means that he is unusual, because the king has no choice but to allow him to enter the harem. But he tells his father to write a letter to get permission. He accepts the order and is excited takes Cain with him, so they can fight some more. The king can't believe he defeated their strongest knight. They discuss how Cain could be so strong at such a young age. The king looks at Garm to explain, and he's not sure either, or Diane's strange response when she suspects him of being a disciple of the gods. The king reveals that this is happening. Mana comes up with a way to test him, which after meeting Cain is to show a book. Diem took to the corridors again, and he tired of the fighting that Tijuana was forcing him to do, revealing that after training well with him, he had added the title of swordsman to his status. The vice captain cut short his complaints as he dragged off. He returns to the king, who wants to have an audience with him. He is even more frightened when everyone gathers in the room. The king explains that he called him because he wanted to show him something. Magna's gift of imperial rank sent a book with magical text, inherited in the royal family. They inform him that it was written by the first king Uia, which makes Cain excited that he has the opportunity to learn such a high level of magic, since in the palace mage's library, he only reaches mega level. He begins reading spells and is shocked, which confirms the king's suspicions as he tells Cain that no one can read the book he has because it is written in the first king's Japanese. So everything now, even his name, makes sense, starts to happen. A very Japanese. Cain deduces that Uo is reincarnated just like him. The monarch continues that they only know that he's an emperor-level mage because that's the label given to him. As he asks Cain to formally introduce himself, he's a little worried. If he spills the beans he'll lose everything, but he stops himself and tells them he'll admit it in confidence, but they have to promise not to leave this room if they don't like what he's doing. Peace says that he will leave the kingdom with. He begins by revealing that he still has memories from his previous life, which the first emperor also heard is from another country, from Japan, and if he is really his son, he apologizes for not telling them of his concerns, but convinces him. There is no doubt that he reveals what the gods told him when he was baptized at the age of 5. Everyone is surprised that Joel has met the gods. He says that he has met 7 of them and that he is still in frequent contact with them. He would not believe what they saw to present his information. They would not believe what they saw with the titles that the king had. Every citizen of this world must bow down to Cain except himself. The title chosen by God, how high? This comment greatly frightens Cain. He tells the king that he likes his current life, and that all the good people he meets to be named a baron is more honor than he deserves, and that in his previous life he lost all his family members, and that he will help them alone. But he is loved here so much that he should not be taken away from him. He tells Garm that he is proud to be his son, and apologizes to the king for hiding everything from him even after Cain wants them to behave like this. All things considered, the king decides to recognize him as Garm's son, but he offers him a royal position, much to everyone's surprise, which ends their meeting unofficially. Tijuana accepting his father's decision and inviting Cain again feels like an adult in drag. When it comes to Cain, there's nothing to worry about. The king just hopes he can protect the country and the ones he loves. He later apologizes to Telestra and Silk for adding another to the list, but when they drag him to Tijuana, they lose their minds. They understand a way for another fake fight to end.